Hey guys, it's been quite an interesting day, both kind of online in terms of the news that's come out. We're going to talk about that briefly. And then also, I managed to get hold of someone that I know's got a 2015 Honda CRV. I'd seen it before, and this time I actually managed to get permission to climb inside the vehicle. So I'm going to talk to you guys about that. I actually took some video, also took some photos. I can tell you that I was surprised in both sort of two different directions. I was surprised in a way that I thought, wow, this could actually support foul play. But I was also surprised in another area. And anyway, so I'll talk to you guys about that. And I'm going to go through about 5 things that occurred to me that I hadn't thought of based on climbing inside the vehicle and just orientating myself with an actual vehicle rather than photos. But before we get to that, I want to look at some of the news stories that came out today. So there's one from Fox News, this one. Let me just bring it up like so. Kiely Rodni, the volunteer dive team that found a remains, suspects foul play. And basically derived from this article was another article from the Daily Mail, this one here. Basically comes from sort of derivative. And it basically says, diver who found missing California teen Kiely Rodni says her death reeks of foul play. Pretty strong words, right? Pretty strong words. So I am going to come back to these articles, and I'm going to circle back to it sort of at the end of this live stream. I really don't want it to be a long live stream, maybe an hour if I can keep it that low. Hi, Bria, good to see you. Sharon as well. Nice to see you here. Terry, good to see you as well. Don't laugh, but the reason I'm doing this as a live, I don't really enjoy doing lives that much, is because I just don't have the energy. I'm too lazy, basically, to do the editing and syncing thing again. I spent the whole day doing that on the 6th clue video. Put quite a lot of effort into that. I just didn't want to do it again, and I've kind of run out of time as well. So that's the reason I'm doing this live. It's not really going to be a long live, but I do think I found what I found really interesting, and I hope you guys are going to find it interesting as well. I'm going to show you guys some photos. I feel a bit shy because it's kind of photos of me sitting in the vehicle. So try and get beyond that. And I'm also going to show you some video. For example, video I took sitting in the hatch area. I'm going to show you guys that as well. But first, I want to kind of take you through step by step the photos and the insights. There are basically 5 insights that I want to kind of draw your attention to. So let us bring up that slide. SM Kovalinsky, good to see you. Okay, anyway, good to see you guys here. I know it's really short notice. If I don't pay too much attention to chat, it's because I've got to get through a script, and it's quite important to be on point here. So that was really the first thing that stood out, was that it was a lot smaller than I expected. Let me do that. It was a lot smaller than I expected. I think the reason for that is when you, as a photographer, are photographing the hatch from the back, because the hatch is closest to you, the hatch seems really big. And because of the structure of the vehicle, because the vehicle is almost in a cylindrical, like a tube structure, it actually suggests that it's bigger than it really is. So it was really weird when I opened the hatch and I sort of looked in, I was like, wow, is that all? I think there's also a little bit, I've got a vehicle myself, and this vehicle's rear space area was a lot smaller. It was just surprising. It's quite weird looking at photos and then seeing the real thing and going, wow, okay, so the scale is totally different. That was definitely kind of a surprise. So that was the first thing that stood out. Here is another image with my dog. Let me do it full screen. And there you can actually get a sense of the space between the middle area and the roof of the vehicle. And well, there's my dog. This isn't a very big dog. It's a miniature schnauzer. And you can see he's half as tall as this seat. And this distance from here to there is about the same distance as well, right? I don't know if you get a sense of how small this is by looking at the dog, looking at how much space the dog takes up. It's quite a small dog. So the first thing that was kind of a surprise was there's actually I think you can see it right over there. This is not really a very good image, but you can kind of see there's the edge of a bag, a grocery bag over there. And when I put the bag over the edge, it didn't look to me like the bag strap you see in the Adventures with Purpose video. That area over there, let's just blow this up a bit more. So there just happened to be a black bag in this vehicle. I didn't bring it along, it just happened to be there. And so I sort of did that. And although I guess it's possible, to me, I don't think that is what we're seeing. It's a much flatter, wider strap, the one that you see in the Adventures with Purpose video. Do you guys agree with that? So of the possibilities, I don't think it is a gym bag or some kind of bag. Do you guys agree with that? Robbie, Robin, good to have you here. Do you guys agree with that? That although this is a possibility, it's very likely not this, right? Do you guys agree with that? So that wasn't a huge surprise. This was quite a big surprise. This was definitely a surprise. Have you guys seen this before? Have you guys seen that there is a seatbelt slot in the hatch area? Did you guys know this? Do you guys know that there's a seatbelt slot? And this is not to be confused with another seatbelt slot down here. This slot, I think, services a passenger in the middle. I think that's the point of it. I think it's supposed to go, to keep a baby or a child sitting in the middle seat. I think that's what it's for. But did you guys know that there was this particular belt? So Awakened Mystic says yes. Okay, so I definitely didn't know that. It's a good question. Does this come standard? I would assume that it does. The question I have is it on the left side or the right side? That's my question. This is a South African vehicle, and so in South Africa we drive on the right-hand side. In America, you drive on the left-hand side. So I don't know whether this belt coming down would impact something like that, whether they would say, okay, we want it on the driver's side coming down that way. The only way we would know is if you guys could kind of confirm that. I don't know if anybody. Bria says, I have one of those belts in my minivan. Bria, is the belt in your minivan also on the left side? Because Don't you guys, in France, do you guys drive on the left-hand side of the road? Can't actually remember. It's not a cargo strap from what I saw there. It looks like a strap that goes into a buckle in the back seat, but in the middle. That's what it appears to be. Unless I missed something, we couldn't find any kind of buckle that it went into in the back area. As I say, I could have missed something. Yeah, I agree with that. It's not a cargo strap, it's a seatbelt. That's the impression I got. That's definitely the impression I got. So that was definitely a surprise. When I saw that, I thought, wow, does this mean there was foul play? That's literally what I thought. Let me show you another image. This is from the actual seatbelt area. Where, can you see over there? Let me just blow it up all the way. Can you see over there? That's the area you'd expect the seatbelt to be. So there's one on this side. You can see it's sort of above the seat. There's another one on the other side, also above the seat, but the one that is for the middle seat kind of comes out of the roof. But anyway, when you take that particular seat belt and you put it back, it doesn't actually reach. That's as far as it reaches. Right? That's as far as it reaches. Now I've got a kind of question. If the idea was to hold Kiely in place, in other words, if the idea was to sort of wrap her up in a belt so that she didn't go anywhere, to me it would make more sense to use this belt because it would be a tighter fit, if that makes sense, right? In other words, with a belt fully extended, if you put something between the end of the belt and the seat, it would hold whatever was there in place. So to me, it doesn't make sense that you would not use this belt and instead you would use another belt, right? I'm going to explain to you why I say that, but let me say that again. If the idea was to use a belt to hold someone in place, a person, it's quite a big, what's the word? It's quite a big, I hate to use the word object, but yeah, it's quite a big shape, sized, a person is a largish object to hold in place, right? This would sort of fit around that, right? Now, you might say, no, I don't think that makes any sense until you actually see the other belt, right? So let's bring that one up. So a seat belt could have gotten, caught in the hatch area, but not the actual seat belt for the sort of rear driver's seat. It's more the hatch seat belt, which I think is for a passenger sitting in the middle. And if you look at this seat belt, it's really long and it kind of goes way past that rear area, right? Quite strange. People who have this vehicle, I would love to know what you tend to do with that strap, because it's also it's far more than is needed to just get to the passenger that's there. It's way more than is needed for that. But the point is you can extend it way past the rear, right? And then you can turn it over itself, close the hatch, and then you're going to duplicate that strap exactly as you saw in the video, right? And now the question is, if you had to ask me, do you think that is what you see in the video? I'm not going to answer that right now, but I don't think it's the answer that you're going to expect. It is retractable. It is retractable. So if you let it go, it goes all the way back in. So that is quite a good point. So the next thing I want to show you guys is the inside when you actually sit inside. So there again is the seatbelt that is in position. And have a look at where my legs are, right? So here I'm sitting in the hatch area. Look where my arms are and look at where my legs are. This image here gives you a better idea. Let's just push it along further there. So here I'm sitting right against the back and my legs are sort of bent down. But if I relaxed my legs, they would go right to the other side. And I don't know if you remember when Nick Rinn swam around this side, right? I think it was actually the other side, but if you just imagine it's this side where the windows were, right? But it's upside down. It's actually the other side. That is where he saw shoes sort of through this window, in this sort of area, through this window, sort of there. Now, if you imagine me suddenly being in water and floating in water, you could, and you imagine I'm not trying to hold my feet together. You can imagine them lifting up to about that point. Does that make sense? So in other words, if you just animate this scene in your mind, in your imagination, you can imagine my feet being over here and the other side of me being over there. Does that make sense? It's quite a good question. How tall am I? I'm 177. Kiely was 170, so it's not much of a difference. It's not no difference, but certainly not much of a difference. So here is another photo of me sitting inside the hatch. Not that that tells you very much, except that it's quite difficult to sit, you can't sort of lounge, you can't sit with yourself completely open, right? You can't lie in a horizontal position. You've got to be balled up to some extent. Yeah, upside down is different, totally different. So this is that same sort of thing from this position, right? Do you get the can you appreciate from this perspective just how tiny that hatch is? I'm sitting with my back against the side. So I'm literally pushing myself against the left side of the vehicle. And I'm already halfway across with my hand. And there's just that small little space remaining on the other side. That's how small that hatch actually is. No, I didn't try climbing over the back seat. I didn't try that. It's not my vehicle, and unfortunately I was told you've only got 5 minutes because I've got to go and pick up my grandchild. So that was unfortunate. I would have liked to have done that. Yeah, it is small. Okay, so let's continue. So here's another view that gives you a sense of just how small it is over there. Gives you just a sense of how small this area is. Now, what I want to ask you guys is, when you see me sitting there, do you think I'm in the hatch? Do you think I'm like in the trunk? Where would you describe me? Am I in the trunk or am I sitting in the hatch area? How would you put it? If I was just sitting there and you walked by, would you say I'm in the trunk, or would you say, yeah, I was just sitting in the back? What would you say? Yeah, definitely not a big car. Yeah, I'm about 5'11". Yeah, so that's quite an interesting question. It's this idea that Kiely was in the trunk because there was some sort of cover, right? There was some sort of cover. And I think exactly what you're saying there, I think exactly what you're saying is what people sort of want to believe, that they sort of want to believe in a sort of mafia style. Kiely was in the trunk and someone had put her there because she'd been murdered. And so that makes the foul play theory work. This particular vehicle wasn't like that. The hatch area is so small that you would constantly be bumping against the middle line because it's such a low area, right? So it would actually make no sense to put in that platform because you wouldn't be able to put much of any size in, right? I'm just saying this was a random person, and when I opened the hatch, there was nothing there, right? And it's not like there's a very big space that separates the one from the other. It's actually a very small space. And you can see I can barely fit in, even though there's nothing separating, right? The other thing that I think, if you want to make the argument that Kiely was in the trunk, like literally invisible under the trunk, I think the argument that messes that up is basically this particular image here. If Kiely was in the trunk, you would not see that picture. You wouldn't see that in that particular image. Now, if you invert this image, you turned it back upside down, right? If you turn this upside down, then Kiely would be on this side, and that is where Nick Rins saw someone through that window. In other words, through this window, he saw this object that's here, right? In other words, you would not be able to see what's there, in my opinion, if there was this sort of hatch partition that you're talking about. You guys follow what I'm saying? Okay. So now we get to quite an important area, and this is one of the big things that came out of actually sitting there. You know, it's one thing to see the vehicle and then you think, okay, well, now I want to see the vehicle upside down. Now I want to see the vehicle right side up. When you actually sit in the vehicle, you start to imagine the vehicle turning upside down, not being upside down, turning upside down. And so for the vehicle to turn upside down means it's really got to go, and this is not rocket science, it's quite obvious. For the vehicle to turn upside down, it's got to go through 3 steps. It's got to go from right to the normal side. It's got to go kind of in a side, what's the word? A side, turn on its side, and then upside down. It doesn't just go from right side to upside down. It's also got to go onto its side before it's upside down, right? And I think what a lot of people forget is at that moment where the vehicle is on its side, whatever is floating inside it is going to move to one end or the other in terms of the one side or the other, right? There's going to be a period where something that's inside the vehicle is going to go, if it's at A, it's going to go to B. If it's at B, it's going to go to A. And then when it turns completely over, it's going to move to some extent again, because now it's another orientation, right? So let me show you that in those 3 steps, in 3 separate steps. So imagine that this is the vehicle filling up with water, and you are in this area where the air pocket is. The area behind my arm is full of water, and you're trying to stay away from that water, right? And then the next thing that happens is that the vehicle turns on its side, like this. And when the vehicle turns on its side, where are you going to be? Well, more than likely, if gravity hasn't taken effect, I don't know why that has happened. if gravity hasn't taken effect, if gravity has taken effect, then you are going to sink to the bottom, assuming that there's air there, right? You're going to sink to the bottom as the car turns. And then when it turns again upside down, then you're going to possibly be in this position. Then you're going to be in that position. In other words, you're going to be in a sitting position with your abdomen facing the sky. This is once the vehicle's turned over. And look where your arms are, look where your legs are. I did shut the back hatch door with me in there. I did. Not in this particular footage, but in some video footage I took, I did do that. So I'm going to deal with my assessment of what what all of this meant and what I went through. I'm going to deal with that in a moment. I first want to play you guys the video of being inside, right? So let's kind of get to that. Let's start with this one. Shall I play that again? Let's go through it again. So the other thing to point out here is where the dog is standing on, underneath that is a tire. It's not as though you can take that compartment out and then that is the trunk. That's basically the bottom that you're seeing there, right? That's the bottom that you're seeing there. Do you guys want me to play that clip again, just to get a sense of the space? Do you guys want me to play that again? Okay, here we go, one more time. Not sure if you can appreciate just how small it is from that, but let's go on to the next one. So can you guys not hear? See if I can bring it back with audio. Share system audio. Okay, let me know if you can hear now. On a South African vehicle, if we duplicate it on the other side, you're going to get exactly the same result. Suppose we might as well do that. So just hold it there. Okay, so just to show that it's who is here, there's Timmy, right? And so what we're going to do now is we're going to demonstrate, can that seatbelt reach this point over here? It's behind the driver's side.
Yes.
Right? Let's see if it does. Right, it's come out as far as it can go, and now we're going to pull it down. That's how far it reaches. That's how far it reaches.
Yeah, so it's definitely not long enough.
So that's in terms of the driver's side on a South African vehicle.
Yeah.
If we duplicate it
On
the other side, you're going to get exactly the same result. Suppose we might as well do that. So just hold it. So can you see? Going to get exactly the same result. Can you see there is the belt poking out of the roof right over there? Can you see that? So my question is the belt on the same side in an American vehicle? Is it on the same side? Because if this vehicle, a South African vehicle, was upside down, you would have expected the belt in the Adventures with Purpose footage to be on the right side. So in other words, if it's pulled out on the left side, just saying, it would make sense that when it's turned over, it would be on the same side on that side. So unless that particular belt is on the opposite side in an American vehicle, I don't know whether that's a good candidate for what we're seeing in the footage. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. It is almost 9 feet long, but there's a caveat to that as well, which I experienced when I try to trap it in the gate. There's a caveat to that. So let's go to another video. I think this one. So on this side of the vehicle, the left side of the vehicle from the rear, which is the side where the belt was.
Yes.
That's when it was upside down. This can come all the way out, and it does reach beyond there. Does reach beyond there.
Yeah, lots beyond.
So this is likely how it appeared. It's something like this.
Oh yes.
So can you close the rear?
Just careful.
Okay. That's, I think, what it appeared, how it appeared.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shall I play that again? So on this side of the vehicle, the left side of the vehicle from the rear, which is the side where the belt was.
Yes.
This can come all the way out, and it does reach beyond there. Does reach beyond there.
Yeah, lots beyond.
So this is likely how it appeared. It's something like this.
Oh yes.
So can you close the rear? So do you guys see the problem with this picture? Do you guys see what the problem is? Do you guys see what the problem is in this picture? The problem is that if the strap is coming all the way out, there's almost nothing to hold anything onto. In other words, the other side of the strap, in order to fold it double, the the other side of the strap kind of doesn't go anywhere, right? The other thing that I think you'll notice is when I let go of the strap, it kind of pulls itself back in. This is after the hatch is closed. It pulls itself back in, and it's quite slippery and quite, what's the word? Besides slippery, smooth, right? And so when you let it go, it actually starts slipping through the hatch. And I had to kind of grab it to pull it out. So in other words, because it's retracting itself, even with the hatch closed, it doesn't want to stay on the outside of it. Yeah, it's sort of silky smooth. Now, you could argue that Kiely's vehicle, this is a 2015 vehicle. You could argue that her vehicle was maybe a bit older, that the seatbelt was a bit more ratty, and it maybe wouldn't have been as silky, but seatbelt fabric tends to be like that. It doesn't get greasy very easily. So I want you guys to watch this again, but think of the problem. The one problem is the fact that you're pulling it all the way out means it can't wrap around anything. The other problem is it is being pulled back in. Watch how it pulls back in when you let go of it. So even if you pinch it in the hatch, it kind of pulls back in.
Just careful.
Okay. Okay. You close the rear.
So I think that's quite a good angle to see. Unfortunately, I can't bring it any bigger than that, but can you see how little of that belt is actually in the vehicle? So if you ask yourself, how on earth could that be holding somebody down when certainly the bottom or the end of that isn't anywhere? The only thing that could maybe be holding down is the top part of the strap. But then it would be, if there's something there, it would be pulling the strap back in slightly. It's possible, but it seems a little unlikely. Again, watch how the seatbelt retracts itself, even with the hatch closed. Watch this.
Careful.
Okay. That's, I think, what it appeared, how it appeared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go back to that. Can you see it's pulling itself back in? You see that?
I think what it appeared, how it appeared.
Yeah.
Okay. That's, I think, what it appeared, how it appeared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. It's not what I want to do. Let's bring up, I think this is the last one.
So another possibility is here is a bag that happens to be in the vehicle. And I suppose it could be something like that, but it doesn't quite look like the same thing.
Not like a strap.
So let's just see what it looks like. Is it something like that possibly?
Okay. So I do want to play the first one or two that I played without audio, just with audio.
Okay, so I'm inside the hatch now, and just to give you an idea how little space there actually is inside the hatch. It's actually very, very limited space. So it's a very, very, very limited space. Okay. So this is a miniature schnauzer. This is going to give you an idea of the scale, the size of this rear area. It's actually really small. So there's not really an above and below. Someone who was sitting in this space would be whether they were on their right side up or other side down, would be the same.
Thanks a lot,
It's not
Les
like
Brown. Thank
they're
you.
in the hatch, because the hatch has got a small space.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we at. Thanks a lot, Les Brown, for your super sticker. So we had about 41 minutes into this live. I'm going to wrap up now. I just want to give my assessment, basically, of what everything that I saw and everything that I tested. Basically, what's the bottom line, right? I mentioned earlier that the belt coming out the ceiling was a big surprise. That was definitely a big surprise. But I think what was a bigger surprise, maybe big is the wrong word, was just how small that hatch area was. I don't. I wouldn't say someone's in the roof area of the hatch or in the trunk. I would just say they're in the hatch, right? So I would definitely query somebody saying in a situation like that, and maybe it's a difference between language skill or descriptive skill or whatever. Maybe it's just a difference of how one expresses yourself. Because it's such a small cargo area, I wouldn't think that's the trunk and that's the above trunk area. I would simply think that's the hatch because it's such a small area. I suppose it's subjective. I suppose you could say, no, that's definitely the trunk and that's not the trunk. Again, without that partition in, I don't think you would even think like that. But that's me, maybe. So the other thing is the pseudo seatbelt was a surprise. Again, the hatch area looks a lot bigger in photos where the back of the hatch is closest to the camera. And I think the inside gives an illusion of depth, of length, of breadth, and space. But sitting inside, when you're actually sitting inside, there's really not a right side or a left side, a top or a bottom, right? Let me say that again. You as someone looking at the vehicle might think of the vehicle the way we often do, the left side, the right side, whatever. But when you're actually sitting in that hatch area, you don't think left, right, up, down. You think I'm in the hatch because there's no space. You think I'm in this hatch area, not, oh, I could get onto the top level of the hatch area or could get onto the bottom level. You just think I'm in the hatch area and there's not really a lot of space. The other thing, which is so basic, but it's something that I think you don't think about unless you're there. Thanks a lot, Sharon. Thanks a lot. Is if you think about sitting sideways in a vehicle, right, which is what I did there, and I think Kiely was also oriented sideways. But if you think about sitting sideways in a vehicle, you might think, yeah, you sit sideways, so what? But think about normally you sit facing the front in a vehicle, and the vehicle is oriented forwards, and the vehicle is a long object. It's a rectangular object typically, but it's basically a long object. So if you, just to be stupid about it, if you take this pen, right? The pen is, in terms of this distance, a long object, but in terms of that distance, it's very narrow, right? So if you wanted to put a snake in this or a worm in this pen, you wouldn't try and do it sideways, right? You'd do it lengthways. Now, the same kind of applies to us. When you sit in that vehicle sideways, you are immediately hemmed in by the other side, like immediately. It's an extremely cramped space when you're sitting in it sideways. To put it in another way, when your back is facing the side, your feet are sort of automatically touching the other side, right? as soon as you're sitting across, you fill that space from one side of the vehicle to the other. So when I was in that situation, it was easier to imagine Kiely floating not just in the rear area, but sort of somewhat across the entire space. And that is why I think AWP saw shoes on one side and the rest of Kiely in the other. Does that make sense? Now I want to show you a close-up shot of this particular, of this belt. Let's do that. Another interesting aspect was that the seatbelt didn't easily remain in the position even with the hatch closed. It wanted to slide back in. The only way it would remain in place is if something was sitting on top of it, right? Not under it, something sitting on top of it, holding it in place. But the idea that the seatbelt was holding someone in place doesn't make any sense because it easily slides back in, even with the hatch closed. The strap at the back remains something of a mystery to me. So, you know, if you're asking me when you did the strap thing, was it like Eureka? It's definitely foul play. I kind of found it kind of mysterious. I was like, now even though I've done this in practice, now I'm in a way more confused than I was. So I found the strap at the back kind of quite mysterious. I'm not convinced it is the hatch seat belt, but nor am I convinced it's the hatch assist strap, right? Unfortunately, this vehicle didn't come with the hatch assist strap, so I couldn't test that. It did have the, I think I actually took a photo of it, but I haven't uploaded it. But it did come with one of those, what do you call it? It's kind of a handhold in the hatch. It did have that on the right-hand side, which is the same side where the strap would be in Kiely's vehicle turned upside down. I wasn't able to test that, but I've got to say, if you ask me, do you think it's the hatch assist strap or do you think it's the hatch seatbelt strap? My answer is I don't know. It's hard to say. I can't say one way or the other. I really don't know. Yeah. I do think a hatch assist strap would more easily get caught in that position and stay there than a seatbelt, which tries to reel itself in. So that's the only thing that I would say is I can't really commit to the one or the other, but a strap that's already locked in place, it doesn't slide back. Well, that's the hatch assist strap. That strap's there anyway, and it would tend to get stuck in there if you close the hatch quickly. And some people have said that they've done that. So here's another view of the interior of the vehicle for what it's worth. And yes, I didn't clamber over, you know, the middle part. I didn't do that. Terry Dean says ceiling strap is long to strap in child seats. Yeah, that is what we kind of speculated it was for. And she actually demonstrated it. She pulled it down and there was actually a clip in the middle. Yeah. So you can use it for the seat in the middle, or you could use it for a child seat. The other thing that I think is important to note with that ceiling strap is it's got two buckles on it. The one buckle is a normal size seatbelt buckle, and the other one is, I think, a child's buckle. Okay. And that is it in terms of the interior of the vehicle. So now I want to quickly talk to you guys about these articles that came out today. I'm going to allow the other creators to ignore this article or not. Let's see what happens. I've kind of come in quite early in the day, so it's going to be interesting to see whether the creators that have ingratiated themselves with AWP, whether they refer to these articles. Let me be explicit about what I'm talking about. If you've had AWP as a guest on your show and your subscribers have jumped by 400, 500, or 1,000 in a single live, right? Are you going to want to say something critical that's in the mainstream media about a guest that has brought so much treasure onto your channel? In other words, are you going to want to upset the apple cart, right? In other words, if you've had AWP as guests on your channel, are you going to feel that you can be critical of them? Or what if they contact you and say, can you take my video off your channel? Are you going to want to take that risk? I'm just saying, are you going to be able to address the other side of the story that's in the mainstream narrative, or are you not going to? I would just be curious to see what they do, right? I'd just be curious to see what they do. So in terms of this article, let's bring it back up. Where is it? Is it this one? So in terms of this article, if you haven't read it, I recommend you do read it. I'll put a link to it there. So I have linked it in chat, but it's basically came out today. If you just Google Kiely Rodni, it should come up as well. Then there's another article. It's this one from the Daily Mail. It basically is derived from the same article, but anyway, I want to kind of talk a little bit about this article. It covers criticism near the end of the article. There, criticism, right? It also covers the question, was there foul play? So I think it's quite a good article in that sense. It's dealing with what's happening right now. Do you guys agree? So if you think about, since Adventures with Purpose found Kiely Rodni's vehicle, the mainstream media been virtually silent. All they reported on was the celebration, and then they mentioned the laptop being found like 3 or 4 days afterwards, but it was 1 or 2 or 3 sort of mainstream media outlets that mentioned that. Not many did. If the search for Kiely Rodni was high profile, the mainstream media seemed to regard the storm as having passed when she was found. So, you know, I was following the mainstream media's coverage of this, of what the law enforcement was saying, their press statements, you know, interviews with the various people. I'm sure a lot of other people were doing that as well. The point is, there was a heck of a lot of press coverage, but then once Kiely was found, that press coverage sort of dissolved and kind of disappeared. There's been almost no press coverage since then until kind of now, right? Thanks, Double Rainbows. Thanks a lot. Right? Do you guys agree? It feels like the mainstream media feel like the storm regarding this story has just passed. And so it's quite interesting that this particular writer has come forward with this story. By the way, her name is Rebecca Rosenberg. Let me just put up her Twitter here. Rebecca Rosenberg, senior reporter, Fox News Digital, covering crime. She's the author of the story. So at the same time, the mainstream media were leaving the story alone, sort of abandoning it, saying basically, okay, this storm has passed. Social media was only getting warmed up, thanks to Adventures with Purposes video pushing the foul play narrative. If you think about it, at the time that mainstream media sort of stepped away, social media kind of took up the slack and has been racing around trying to make Adventures with Purposes theory work. I think the biggest asset in Adventures with Purposes evidence file is the one they use to open up the documentary dealing with the search. This guy. Where is he now? Let's do that. Do you guys agree that this is the biggest asset in a way to their foul play theory? It's that there was a witness who saw someone and the vehicle was somewhere else, and it's all very bizarre. Do you guys agree? So at the same time, this is their biggest asset. I wonder whether it couldn't also prove to be an Achilles heel. So as a former magazine and newspaper journalist, I'm referring to myself there, I want to demonstrate how magazine and newspaper journalism differs from social media, right? An eagle-eyed patron on Patreon spotted this article and homed in on quite an audacious claim. Let me bring that up. So in the original version of this article, it stated the following. Investigators later obtained surveillance footage of the bizarre interaction and confirmed that the teen was either Rodni or someone who looked like her. So to summarize that, it's basically saying law enforcement saw the surveillance footage that is referred to here, right? Damn, where was I now? Damn, and I've got to go through all of these. Let me just bring it back up to that. Let's just do that. Sorry about this. Let's go back to that one. Okay, so basically, according to that, law enforcement later obtained surveillance footage of a teen that looked like Kiely Rodni. Do you guys agree that that's what they're saying, right? That's quite a big statement, that law enforcement investigators thought that the teen could be Kiely Rodni, right? And the important word here is confirmed that the teen was Rodni. Law enforcement confirmed that the teen was Rodni, right? And now have a look at this. A few minutes later, the same article was edited to remove the word confirm. Investigators later obtained surveillance footage of the bizarre interaction and should have been able to confirm whether the teen was Rodni or someone who looked like her. So, shall we juxtapose the two? Investigators later obtained surveillance footage and confirmed. Should have been able to confirm. And confirmed. Should have been able to confirm. It's the same article. There's Daniel Rodni at Community Search. There's Daniel Rodni. It's the same article. Confirmed, this is the original, this is the first version. Confirmed, law enforcement confirmed that the teen was either Rodni or someone who looked like her. The edited one, the updated one, was that they should have been able to confirm. Do you think they did? Do you think they did confirm that the footage that they were seeing was Kiely Rodni? They should have been able to confirm it, In other words, they should have been able to confirm, but she should also say confirm or disprove. The other side is if you can't confirm something, then you couldn't confirm it. So they're saying they should be able to confirm it if it's true. It's quite a big if, though. I don't think it's a typo done on purpose. I don't think it's a typo. I think the article was published and someone complained and said, we didn't confirm anything. It's quite a crucial area to need to fix one way or the other. I mean, think about it. Well, let's ask the question. The tow truck driver's story, do you think it's being confirmed by the cops? Do you think law enforcement have confirmed the tow truck driver's story? Well, I think this article gives you a clue about that. And if you guys aren't sure, maybe you should contact the journalist and ask her why she changed that. Did she change it on her own, or did someone contact her and make that change? Contact Rebecca Rosenberg. There's her email, and she's on Twitter, Ree Rosenberg, right? I'm sure she could say, the reason I changed it was I didn't like how it was written. I changed it myself. Or we published the story and then somebody contacted us, and so that's why we changed the thing, right? Bria Lace, Adventures with Purpose is for profit. It's for profit. Okay, so let me go through this. So law enforcement officially confirmed that based on Adventure with Purpose's witnesses footage, they thought they had a last photo type footage of Kiely. In other words, the last photo from the previous day is actually now useless. It's actually garbage. It's actually being superseded, and it now needs to be updated with some new footage, right? Some new footage. This is the last time we've ever seen Kiely. So why didn't we see that? Why didn't they tell us that? If they were reaching out to the community, why not reach out with this? If they reached out before the last photo from Truckee, 6 p.m. in Truckee, why not this? And no, it's not because it's an ongoing investigation. That's nonsense. There's no court case, no arrest looming. That's not why they didn't provide that footage. Now, shortly after this article was published, the reporter, as I say, took special care to excise the bit about investigators confirming Kiely from the tow truck driver's footage. And I then did exactly the same thing. I had the original article open. And then I simply clicked refresh. So there you can see confirm that the teen was either Rodni or whatever. I then refreshed the article and then the same thing. Should have been able to confirm. Should have been able to confirm. Why not just say confirm? If it's confirmed, just say just confirmed. It was Kiely. Why not just say that if that's the case? Why all this struggling and messing around to sort out a simple sentence? Why can't I go back and make it should be able to confirm that it could be, and it's not even should have been able to confirm whether it was Kiely, it's or somebody else. Now it's even more meaningless. It's like, well, they can confirm that it could have been Kiely. They could also confirm that it was somebody else. I don't know. I find it Yeah, so if they could confirm it to somebody else, great. But then it's absolutely meaningless. Anyway, so what I'm trying to get at is the difference between this journalist and social media journalist is this journalist obviously made that change because it was important to make it. Otherwise, it would have been factually problematic. Saying confirm that the teen was Kiely Rodni, actually should have been able to confirm, totally different meaning. The difference between social media journalists is they don't obey any conventions like that. Whether it's confirmed or should have been confirmed, it's the same thing in their book. And law enforcement, whether they're aware of what social media is saying or not, they probably don't care much to fact check social media because social media is pretty thin on facts. If law enforcement did see this in the mainstream media, you can bet they would have phoned up or said something and said, hey, that's not accurate, right? So I wonder whether that didn't happen. News media can and often do get into trouble for reporting on facts incorrectly, and social media is starting to get into trouble for that too. Do you remember Amber Heard? She was found to defame Johnny Depp because she tweeted a story she said she hadn't directly written. That was part of why she got into trouble. She said, I didn't actually write the article, but then they said, yes, but you tweeted. And she said, I didn't write the headline of the article. That's not my title. Yes, but you tweeted it, right? And so a jury basically found, amongst other things, that the tweet constituted publishing or republishing or endorsing a defamatory statement. And Amber now has got to pay damages of 8.3 million. That's what can happen when you say something that's not true or you tweet something that's not true. That's what can happen. Alex Jones is also in court right now answering for some tall tales he's made. And yes, they're wanting him to pay multiple millions in damages. So I think YouTubers who say, we're just speculating, we're not doing any harm. No, you speculating, why can't we? All these other people are speculating. What's wrong if we speculate? We're not doing any harm. I think those YouTubers must try to make hay while the sun shines. It's not going to be this sunny for you forever, where you can speculate till the cows come home. And is it not harmful? Is speculating not harmful? If you take this particular comment and you say investigators confirmed that it was Kiely, what's wrong if that's left like that? Well, what could be wrong is her parents might say, OMG, so Kiely was walking around the next day. How come we don't know that? If you say should have been able to confirm, oh, well, we're not sure, totally different. Then there's no obligation to the family either. Does that make sense? So that's my spiel. I just want to have a look at some of your questions and comments here. Deborah, I totally disagree with that. This whole idea that it's part of an active investigation. So I've done a lot of research into what AWP have said, and so certain things they'll say freely. So they'll say there definitely wasn't a wrong turn, and they'll say Kiely was right at the back of the vehicle, and this, that, and the next thing. But then certain really obvious things like, well, was she wearing clothing or not? No, well, I can't tell you. It's part of an active investigation. So why on earth is saying she definitely didn't make a wrong turn? In other words, it's definitely not an accident. In other words, it's foul play. But I don't want to influence the investigation because, it's part of an active investigation. But you are, by saying that. And so in terms of a yes/no answer, was she wearing clothing? Well, by not saying anything, you actually add fuel to the fire. You could just say no, if it's no. If it's yes, say yes. Why not? This whole thing of it's part of an active investigation, I think someone's been watching too many movies. It's part of active investigation is when there's a trial that is about to take place. It's when someone's about to be prosecuted. That's when it's sensitive. Who do you think's going to be about to be prosecuted here? I think the whole thing of somebody knows more than, and they're just holding it back for the right moment. You can use that to address any problem. You can say, we can only tell you so much because it's part of an investigation, but we're going to hold back all the other stuff. Oh, so it definitely is foul play. No, it's not necessarily. But it's something to add to your imagination. So one wonders if a report had to come out where they said, we've investigated this and we found it to be an accident. Or AWP, they're going to say, okay, we're now going to release our report, which rubbishes what you're saying. And so once again, it becomes, don't trust law enforcement, don't trust the police, don't trust anybody, trust social media. I think that suits social media pretty well. I think that suits social media really, really well. Nancy says law enforcement can't be trusted to accurately investigate this case. Well, who should then? Who should be trusted to investigate it? Seriously, who should be trusted to investigate this case? I do agree that there've been some serious mistakes, but I think I don't want to make excuses for anybody, but Truckee is a tiny town, and the people who should be in charge of such a big case, because its Placer Sheriff's Department is so small, they've sort of delegated authority to Nevada, right? And Nevada aren't there, if you know what I mean. In other words, someone is somewhere else dealing with a case that's somewhere else. It's not really a normal part of their jurisdiction, if that makes sense. And I think that shows. I think searching somewhere that's not part of your jurisdiction makes it difficult. Mel Stiller says, adventures with purpose are divers, not investigators. Spitfire Pam says, you are incorrect. An active investigation happens in times like this, every time. What motivation would AWP have to not put out to tell all video? So this is the part that I find is a bit weird. If you don't want to influence an active investigation, then why would you bring out a video pushing a foul play scenario? Now, if it could be foul play or an accident, why would you bring out a video that basically kicks off the whole foul play thing? It's basically a foul play manifesto. If you're saying, you know what, I'm not going to tell you anything because it's part of an active investigation, but then you release a video that says foul play, foul play, foul play, foul play, then why on earth, how do you reconcile that? Just that's really what I'm getting at. I don't want to influence the investigation, except I am. I'm going on every single true crime channel to say, you know what, this isn't 50-50 to me. It's very clearly, it reeks of foul play. How is that not? I don't want to impact an active investigation. You know, that's why you had this article. Her death is suspicious, it reeks of foul play, blah, 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 blah. That's what came out of that video. And then when you ask for details, I don't want to impact an active investigation. I don't know. Let me just deal with a couple of your questions, maybe for 5 minutes. It's an interesting point. It's no longer a good deed when you're charging people to see your good deed. That's right. I think a lot of people are frustrated. I think the family are also frustrated. Jenny Rose says, I simply don't believe that Kiely drove that vehicle into the water by accident or on purpose. Okay. Okay, so yeah, just to kind of wrap up, quite a long time ago, like I've written quite a few true crime books, John Benet Ramsey, Madeleine McCann, Amanda Knox, Jodi Arias, Casey Anthony, and someone said to me, you know, every single case you write, you're arguing that someone's guilty of something, right? When you're going to cover a case where you defend someone who's not guilty, or where you make the case that someone's not guilty. And I said basically, well, often in these high-profile cases, someone is guilty. It's not something else. And I think this is that case. This is that exceptional case where there isn't going to be any prosecution or arrests or court case because it's an accident. So it's quite ironic for me that I did end up somehow being in a case that I feel is that. And who knows, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe 90% of social media feel it is, or 70% feel it is definitely foul play. Maybe it is foul play. But anyway, someone who wanted me to defend a scenario where I thought it wasn't, where someone wasn't guilty or something. Well, this is it. This is definitely it. To Helen Back says, I hope the truth comes out soon. It might be as soon as next week. I heard that the investigation's complete already. There's someone said that it might be in 2 weeks. This was about a half a week ago that we may actually hear what the results are. Not the 1st of November. I mean, the discovery might be released then, but we may actually get a official announcement in the next week or so, quite soon. As far as I know, the investigation is actually complete. Thanks very much. Yeah, people will cry cover up. Okay. Yeah, no, there's been a lot of channels saying red flags, red flags, red flags. B. Sathers says, so if it wasn't foul play, then AWP has lost all their credibility. Well, if it is foul play, then they should kind of market themselves as like a legitimate true crime channel, you know, better than law enforcement. You know, when something happens, call us and we'll investigate, kind of thing. Thanks, Ashley. Yeah, that's Earthrise. Sorry, that's Earthrise from the moon's perspective. Hopefully, a rocket is going to end up going to the moon sooner than later. We'll see. I feel the same. I definitely feel the same. Aquarius Girl says, with a lot of question marks, who said the investigation is complete? What's her name? Jennifer. She's an ex-FBI agent. She's got a funny surname, something Statter. But anyway, she apparently contacted law enforcement to find out about the laptop. You know, is the laptop definitely Kiely's? And she got confirmation of that. And she got confirmation that the investigation is complete. So I'm not quite sure what they're waiting for. It might be toxicology results, which is definitely, it can take as long as 6 weeks. It took about that long in the Chris Watts case. Yeah. Phoenix 1, thanks so much. Wow. Will you do a vlog on how she was in the hatch despite 2 windows open or broken out? Well, I suppose I could address that here. It's quite a good argument. The way that I answer it is basically from 2 or 3 perspectives. The one perspective is I do think she was escaping the water. So in other words, she was following the air pocket. Quite a few people have said that. Quite a few experts have said that. It's also kind of just intuitive that she would follow the air pocket. The other side is it's quite difficult to say this to you if you haven't followed my process and you haven't looked at other coverage I've done, because I've actually shown you how quickly the water comes in. If you kick a window out, it'll take, let's say, 10 to 20 seconds once you hit the water to be able to kick that window out. Then you've got maybe about 10 seconds to turn around and get out. That's a very short length of time when it's a surprise. I'm trying to say, if you don't know you're about to drive into water, if it's nighttime and you're also going to lose all illumination, you know, when the vehicle hits the water, you're going to lose light, you're going to be in darkness. And there's going to be a moment of sort of paralyzed fright. You're not going to like hit the water and instantly go into save yourself mode. So I honestly believe that Kiely did kick out the window, but by the time that she'd done that, just sort of too late. The water was sort of coming in and she had to get away from that position. It's quite a good point to say, why didn't she just go out the other window, which was there? And I think there are a couple of possibilities. The one possibility is, you must remember again, it's pitch dark, it's at night, it's in a place where there's no ambient lighting. I know a lot of people say the moon was shining. It actually wasn't. The moon set at 26 minutes past midnight. I checked. You can check by Googling moonrise August 6, 2022, California. Go and check for yourself what time the moon set. Moon set means the moon sank below the horizon. In other words, it was pitch dark. And the only way that she could have had light is if she had her phone to hand, if she used her phone as illumination. And I think the moment she tried to get from the front passenger seats to the back, even if she had illumination, I think from that moment of the water going in, the vehicle would have started rotating in some way, either onto its side or vertical like that. And so even if you could see, wow, there's actually a window that's open there. Even if you could see that, it wouldn't necessarily be so easy getting to that window, because the vehicle is now it's the vehicle's not like a static object, it's moving. And so if you're moving in a vehicle that is sort of rotating as well, you can cause that vehicle to rotate even more. Does that make sense? I think the more likely thing is that at some point her phone, she didn't have the illumination of her phone, and so that's why she couldn't see that open window. That's what I think. The other thing is, even if she did see that open window and she could get to it, the length of time it takes for the water to gush into the passenger window from that window to the window next to it is really not a lot of time. It's maybe she had an extra 10 seconds. And so she may have wanted to go through that window, also seen the water gushing in there, and then just followed the air pocket to the next point. There's no way she would have swum down into the dark water, losing the light of her phone if she still had it, through that window. I just don't see that happening. That's the long version of the answer. The short version is, if you go and study videos like Mythbusters, they've done 2 episodes. Both times the guy basically drowns in the experiment. So it's premeditated. He knows what's about to happen. It's in the daylight, and he has a strategy, and he still fails to survive. As I say, the shorter version to that is, when you watch these vehicles go in, they fill up quite slowly. 10 to 20 seconds seems like a really long time. Seems like you've got all the time in the world. After that point, it fills up incredibly quickly, and then it's tickets. Then there's nothing you can do. So it's very weird. It's like you've got all the time in the world, and then all your times run out very, very quickly. It's really very, very strange. I've also heard from more experienced diving crews than AWP that they typically find the victims in the back, right? It's typical, it's not atypical. And this is diving crews who've been doing it for 17 years, not 3 years. We've done 104 of these operations, not 24. So 5 times as many. And what you appreciate is just the speed at which these vehicles fill up. So even though the window's open, I think the part that would have counted against Kiely is, number one, the darkness, and number two, her being intoxicated. You know, that's going to slow her down at least by a third, in my view. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Not in the very back. No, in the very back. In the very back. That's also what I find kind of odd, is to say Kiely was in the back. That's really suspicious. So if she was, this is what I don't understand. If she was in the driver's seat, that wouldn't be suspicious. So someone who drove in and stayed in the driver's seat and drowned, that wouldn't be suspicious. Nobody would stay in the driver's seat. Somebody going from the driver's seat to the back seat and the water's still coming up, why would you stay in the back seat? Oh no, but because you follow the air pocket to the last possible point, that's suspicious. It's absolutely not suspicious. You're trying to stay alive. You're going to get every breath that you can. So anyway, don't take my word for it. You know, I'm who am I? You know, I'm a drop in the ocean compared to these big channels. But anyway, there are these news reports that have come out, and I am curious who is going to cover the criticism and who isn't. It refers to Tammy Waters of Sonar Search and Recovery, right? saying AWP are not the police. If you had the proper experience, you wouldn't go blabbing like that. That's what they say, right? So I just wonder which channels are going to be covering that today. I'm talking about the channels that had AWP on as guests. Are they going to be covering this, or selectively not covering it? I would just be interested to see that. Thanks a lot, Sarah. Thanks very much. Jenny Rose says, wouldn't you be getting out of the car any way you can? Absolutely. You want to survive. You're fighting to survive. Dana says, is there a divider back there? I don't know what to call it. You can put a divider in, but the space is so small that I haven't actually seen the lady who I saw today. She didn't have a divider. Kiely didn't seem to have a divider either. Yeah. I'll just deal with the last couple of comments. STEM KB says, I think Kiely was wearing only one sock and shoe. Yeah, I'm sure his reaction was genuine, yeah. The Andra, no air pocket when water is coming in so fast. No, that's absolutely not true. Of course, there's an air pocket. Okay, guys. I hope you found the video quite interesting. Talking about the video inside the Honda CRV. I definitely learned a lot. I totally overestimated the size of it. I also was shocked to see that there was a belt that comes right out the ceiling, but I was also surprised at how difficult it is to sort of keep it there when you try and pinch it under the hatch. That was definitely a surprise. Again, in the beginning, I was quite sure that it could be a hatch assist strap. Now I'm very 50-50. I'm like, I guess it could be that seat belt from the hatch area, and I guess it could be the hatch assist strap. I think the thing that'll decide it for me is if the seat belt from the hatch area is on the correct side, the corresponding side, in a Honda made in America, then I think it's likely. If it's not on the corresponding side, then I think the odds go to it being a hatch assist strap. That's just my view. Terry Dean says, thanks for giving us an intelligent place to consider all the facts. I hope so. I hope you guys feel that way. Cool. Okay. Take care. I've got another episode coming up dealing with intertextuality. Let's see if I can find the relevant image. I think it's this one. There we go. So I'm going to be dealing with some really, really interesting intertextualities, and that'll be probably coming up tomorrow. It won't be a live stream. It'll just be, I don't think it'll be a live stream. It'll just be a edited video. But I'm going to be using some quite current news that's really going to put things into fascinating perspective. So look out for that. Thanks a lot. Thanks, mods. Thanks, members and subscribers. And thanks a lot for the super chats. Take care and see you guys next time.